All right, so we're going to be taking a look at your USD and how you could have traded it this week. So I'm going to be using the replay function again to showcase, uh, understanding the direction, understanding the entry, understanding why certain things would have happened the way that they happened, and how you could have taken advantage of it all. Right. So yeah, let's begin. So the first thing you have to take a look at is what is your USD doing at this moment. So before anything happens, this is literally like a backplayed version of your USD. This is not current price. You'll see current price shortly, but what is your USD doing right here? If we had to decide on what direction your USD is going, I know that there'll be many people who would say your USD is bearish, and you wouldn't be wrong. You would not be wrong because here your USD is definitely bearish. But what about here? It's bullish. So what is absolutely necessary to remember, right, is that you have to pay attention to what it's doing at its current price, not just overall. Because in the macro trends, which are the bigger trends, there are also micro trends, which are the smaller trends. And you need to be able to pay attention to all, right? Remember something, water takes the shape of its container, and water follows the path of least resistance, right? It's very important that you adapt to what is happening. Take the shape of the container that you're in and follow the path of least resistance. Now, it's actually kind of interesting because, as I said, it's bearish here, but it's bullish here. You can actually begin to see a bull trend being created, right? You can even draw it like that, but we'll draw it like this, right? And the reason why we draw it like this is because we're looking at this first high here. So we take this and we drag that like that. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to see what the masses in this moment, you could, like I said, you can even do that and that will still be counted as the trend because the masses would still try to buy off of these specific areas here, 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 and here, right? They would still try to buy in these areas. Now, let's pay attention to what happens in this area. I've said something in the past that, and you may or may not have heard me say this, you do not go against the direction unless it gives you a valid reason to do so. So let's take a look at this. So straight off the bat, what is this telling you? Put it in the comments. What is this telling you? It's telling you that it's bullish, but it's somewhat rejecting, right? It's bullish, but it's somewhat rejecting. So let's go candle by candle. The very next candle runs up. Now notice we're not just going to say, because it's somewhat rejecting, that you're just going to sell it. We need a clear, concise signal, sign, something to tell us that it is indeed going to reverse, right? Let's see what the next candle does. Maybe that's your sign. Maybe that's your sign. Who knows? I don't know if I trust that yet because here's the thing. Price didn't necessarily get to the previous high, which would be here. So how do I know that that's actually ready to reverse? Let's take a look at the next candle. Still don't know because now if we pay attention, you'd realize that there's a wick on both sides. This is actually kind of like almost a doji candle, which signals indecision. What does the next candle do? Boom. So if you sold here prematurely, right, you'd technically be guessing. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. Now, this candle now would then signal what to us? It broke this previous high. So it's actually going to be telling us that maybe a breakout is in order. When in actuality, we can't trust that because there's not enough information for us to place buys. It's just very bullish. It does not mean that it's going to continue. So we wait and we wait and we wait. And then, boom. If you tried to buy this here, you'd also be in trouble. And you could see how right in this area alone, right here alone, buyers and sellers would be destroyed just from this area alone. Now, what do I do? What do I recommend? Here's what you can do. If you wanted to, you now understand what a stop hunt is. If you wanted to, you could just literally pay attention to this on its current time frame, or you can go on lower time frames to adhere to the structure that's being played out. So let's see. On the 5 minute time frame, it's definitely beginning to look a little bearish now because it also rejects, and it's definitely three big red candles. But let's go even lower. Now it's beginning to tell us that maybe the momentum is shifting. And we remember on the 50-minute time frame, we already have a potential reversal pattern. By virtue of you have the first high, come back down, you have your second high, which is the potential of your M pattern being created. So we go down on the lower time frame to see if we can utilize this, if we can take advantage of this. Personally, I didn't do this. I didn't use the 1 minute time frame to take this, to enter your USD. But I'm showing you, had we moved just a little bit sooner and seen this just a little bit sooner, you could have done this. So let's go. Let's see what happens. There's a saying with my signature setup, which is the ECR. What happens? The best potential ECR happens after an M or a W pattern, after a reversal, right? So we have our potential reversal here. ECR is simply a moving average cross. Does not matter which moving averages you use. Let's pay attention to what happens. We wait for the moving averages to cross, and boom, right here, literally right here. If you wanted to, this is your entry right here with a 10 pip stop loss, and we leave the position open. Let's see what happens. And it just begins to fall away effortlessly, right? And you could see that same 10 pip stop loss has already gone 1 to 2. You already had a 10 pip stop loss and it went 20 pips in your favor. Let's see if, let's go back. So we are already in the trade. Let's go back on the 50-minute time frame and see what that looks like. That's literally what it looks like. And this is literally price here. It's about 25 pips in profit. Let's see what happens. Are we allowed to hold this? Why, yes, we are. Yes, we are. So you can see that overall it went about 38-ish, give or take pips, right? And it's currently floating, and now it drops even more. It goes about 55, 56, right? Let's see what happens. And right around this area, right here, is actually where I entered. And I will explain this in another video, but I entered for sells here. But you can see, again, you're not taking out of your position. You're still in for sells, right? And if you notice, the market is actually targeting specific areas in which the masses would have been buying along this trend to begin with. Let's continue. Interesting, yeah? Very interesting. The market specifically targets these areas. With a 10 pip stop loss, you had literally the ability to yield over 120 pips of profit. This one trade would have given you a 1 to 12 risk to reward ratio just by understanding this basic structure. Simply by understanding this basic structure, who is trapped, who this trap is made for, and why. And you'd notice that now the trap is beginning to play out again by virtue of you have the same trend being created, right? You have the same channel being created, and now You have your first zone right here. You have your second zone. You could say that this is your second zone here. You have your third zone. And you have your last zone. What do we think is going to happen if price is to reverse? If, I'm saying if price is to reverse off of this area, where do we think it's going to go? If price does something along these lines, where it drops and then does that, it creates that signature W pattern, just like you have your M pattern here. If price does that, creates that W, where do we think it's going to go? The only logical place for it to go is against all of these traders who were selling in this trend line here. Something I want to leave with you: learn to understand direction before you begin to try to focus on your entries. The entry can only be capitalized on if you have your direction correct. That's very important. It is, I would say it's among the most important things as a trader. Not the pair that you trade, not the time, not the session, nothing. The direction in which the market is going to go is literally among, if not top three things that you need to pay attention to. I would say the top one thing. It's the number one thing you need to pay attention to. Everything else comes after.